We're live across the globe and it's time for the money news that matters. I'm Susannah Streeter and this is Talking Business. Let's take a look at the headlines. Our top story, Tesla unleashes the beast, but will the electric truck transform road transport or prove too heavy a load for the company? It can go 800 kilometres without needing a recharge and can carry 36 tonnes, but can the company overcome its factory nightmares? We're going to be hearing from one expert who says Tesla might be biting off more than it can chew with this latest launch, given the production issues it's already facing. Also, President Trump's near $1.5 billion tax plan passes its first hurdle, but will it make it through the Senate? We'll be live in New York, and as we do every day, we'll get all the latest from the global markets. And getting a piece of the action. Film memorabilia can fetch millions of dollars. How much would you pay for a piece of cinema history? That's all to come on this edition of Talking Business. Good morning, America. Evening, Asia. Hello, world. We'll start in California, where the electric car maker Tesla has unveiled its latest venture. The firm's founder, Elon Musk, hopes to take on the road transport business as he has with the car industry with an electric truck called the Tesla Semi. The firm says it will have a range of more than 800 kilometres on a single charge and will go into production in 2019. Mr. Musk also unveiled a new Roadster, which has a range of 1,000 kilometres and can reach 100 miles per hour in just 4.2 seconds. But the firm is facing pressure from investors as it really struggles to meet demand for its Model 3 car. It's behind schedule because of factory delays. Well, let's get rid of the cube now and find out more about this latest launch, which fans are very, very excited in that airport hangar in Los Angeles. Well, Jeremy White is the Wired Gear editor. He's here with me to talk about this. So what's your take on the truck?
Well, everyone's been expecting this for a while, and even the announcement's been delayed. It was expected in September, and so it's finally come. So it's not a surprise to see them actually announcing an electric truck. It's a reasonable progression from their business strategy. What is the issue is that they're already so behind with the Tesla Model 3. In fact, they were in the third quarter, they were meant to produce 1,500 Tesla Model 3 cars to keep up with demand. They only produced 260 of them, and they're the forecast to produce 20,000 per month by the end of the year. And of course, they're nowhere near that target.
So is this a diversion then, do you think? Because we didn't just get the truck. We had out of the back of that truck this Roadster suddenly pop out that nobody was expecting.
No one's expecting that. That was a complete surprise. They did very well keeping that secret. And it is a phenomenal piece of machinery. However, it is a fantastic distraction from the problems that they're facing over at Tesla. They're way behind on their orders, and they're way behind on their production of the vehicles as well. They've had quality issues with the Model X and the Model S too. The American Body Consumer Reports, very respected in evaluating technology and equipment, has criticised them before for not matching the quality with the performance of their vehicles. And they have only been making cars for a very short period of time, relatively. When you consider someone like BMW have been making cars for 100 years. Yes, Tesla has amazing battery technology and the ability to produce other technology linked to batteries, but they actually haven't been making vehicles in an incredibly long period of time. So what you get are quality issues, production issues.
It does, though, seem as though at least some in the road transport industry have been sold on this. JB Hunt Transport Services have said they've made multiple reservations already for this truck, so there is some confidence around.
Oh, and also the orders will come in for it, and orders will come in for the Roadster as well. I mean, you have to pay $250,000 up front to go on that wish list of the first 1,000 Roadsters to come out of the factory. But it's how long will they have to wait for these? Will the companies that are signing up for the semi orders how long will, if their business plans depend on getting delivery of these vehicles on a certain time or within a certain time frame, will they be able to trust Tesla to deliver these vehicles on time?
Okay, Jeremy White from Wildcare, thank you very much for talking to us. So a lot of eyes in the tech industry are going to be really watching that Tesla launch, but also as far as the financial markets are concerned, it's really the emphasis on tax and what's happening with President Trump's tax plans. Well, actually, the near $1.5 trillion proposal has now passed in the House of Representatives. The tax code shake-up would be the biggest since the 1980s. Mr. Trump says it will boost the economy, but critics argue it's a giveaway to big business and the wealthy. The debate now moves to the Senate, where the Republicans have a slim majority. Well, for more of this, we can speak to Samira Hussain, who's at the New York Stock Exchange. Hello there, Samira. So was it a surprise that it passed the House of Representatives?
Well, it wasn't so much of a surprise, just given the kind of tight timetable that the House and the Senate are under when it comes to this tax reform bill. Remember, they want to get it onto the president's desk by Christmas for him to sign. So that means they really have to put everything into hyper speed. And they were able to pass it quite quickly. It was more sort of, trying to really push through the legislation so they can just get on with the business of moving on to the Senate.
Now, you talk about the Senate. Do you think it's just going to be Democrats who will oppose this, or do you think there'll be quite a few Republicans who say, look, this is just too expensive for the United States?
Oh, yes, I think it's absolutely going to be a fight in the Senate as well. And that's really what U.S. markets are actually looking towards. The House didn't matter as much. It's really the Senate bill that they think there's going to be a lot more difficulties. Now, look, if you look at the way the House voted, absolutely everyone voted on party lines. So all Democrats voted against it. But you also had 12 Republicans that also voted against the bill in the House. When it comes to the Senate, we've already heard from some Republicans that said that they're against it right now. And so it's going to be a tough fight to try and get it through.
Very busy in the New York Stock Exchange behind you, and the markets are extremely sensitive, aren't they, to these tax plans?
Absolutely. Look, as soon as the tax plans hit some sort of roadblock, you see it being reflected right here on the New York Stock Exchange, and that the stocks fall. But when it seems like it actually may be likely, well, we see that stocks go up. And so they're going to be watching this really very closely because it obviously will have a really big impact on the U.S. economy. But there are quite a few doubts here about the feasibility of the Senate plan. And don't forget, after you have the Senate plan, the House and the Senate actually are going to have to come together with one cohesive plan, which is yet another layer of complexity that's put onto this bill.
Certainly is. Okay, Samira at the New York Stock Exchange, thank you very much for that update. On to other news now, and Nissan's chief executive, Hiroto Sakawa, has said that he will return part of his pay following damaging vehicle inspection scandal. Nissan has recalled around 1.2 million cars after admitting in October that staff, without proper authorization, had conducted final inspections. German industrial group Siemens has announced plans to cut around 6,900 jobs worldwide, mostly in its fossil fuels division. It said global demand for large turbines produced by its power and gas division had fallen dramatically. Now, most of the job losses will be in Germany. And there have been more takeover approaches for the media giant 21st Century Fox. According to reports, Comcast, owner of NBC Universal, expressed an interest in buying assets, as has Verizon Communications. Now, last week it emerged that Walt Disney had also held talks with. It's time now to check in with the financial markets and look at how they're faring. So London's FTSE 100 is, it's just gone into negative territory, as you can see, after a bounce yesterday. Let's take a look at the DAX in Frankfurt. How's that looking? Also down by 0.11%. Australia's All Ordinaries share index is up slightly, as you can see. The fruit grower and supplier group Costa, though, with a big faller today. And let's look at the price of oil. A barrel of Brent crude is up slightly, up 0.72%. And that was after 5 straight sessions of losses, so up there. Let's get rid of the cube and move on to what's happening in India. Actually, the Sensex index skyrocketed today, and that was after a really good report card for the economy. What's all that about? Well, the credit ratings agency Moody's has given India's Prime Minister Modi a major boost. It's upgraded the country's sovereign credit rating for the first time in 14 years, citing the government's progress on economic reforms. Well, for more of this, we can speak to Samir Hashmi, who's in Mumbai for us. Hello there, Samir. So, what grounds did it give? Tell me more about these economic reforms which have given India this good report card from Moody's.
Well, Moody's has cited a couple of reforms, or rather a few reforms which the Modi government introduced in the last 1 year. Recently, the government implemented the national goods and services tax across the country, which has really reduced a lot of these indirect taxes that were paid by companies across the country. So there's only one national goods and services tax. Recently, the government announced that it will be recapitalizing banks. Now, banks have been struggling due to high levels of debt, which has choked credit growth in the country. So the government wants to address that. And then 1 year back, the government banned 86% of the currency in circulation to crack down on the black economy and tax evasion, which takes place at a huge level. So these are the reforms which Moody's has really mentioned in its report and as a reason for upgrading the sovereign rating. Though there has been short-term pain, but Moody's believe that in the long run, these will really benefit the economy. Now, since these reforms have been introduced, the economy has actually slided. India was the fastest growing economy 3 or 4 quarters back, but now that growth figure has fallen to 5.7% in the last 3 or 4 months.
But I suppose Moody's thinks that this could be temporary once all of these reforms come in. But what about the other major ratings agencies? Are we expecting them to follow suit, or are there still blights really within the economy, particularly in the rural sector?
There are still concerns, there are a few challenges, but what analysts are saying is that given that Moody's have finally gone ahead and revised its rating, other agencies could follow suit. However, they're going to wait and watch over the next 2 or 3 months, because India will be presenting the federal budget next year. Now, in March. Now, remember, Narendra Modi enters his last year in 2018 before the election in 2019. So many people don't expect him to introduce these bold reforms, but instead introduce more of social welfare schemes, which could put pressure on India's balance sheet, the fiscal balance sheet. And that is what a lot of agencies like S&P and Fitch are worried about. They have been flagging that up again and again, that India needs to keep the discipline on the fiscal front. And that's why maybe they'll wait and watch. But for Narendra Modi, this is a big boost. He was criticized widely for all these reforms has introduced over the last 1 year, because that's hit economic growth. The implementation of the national goods and services tax hasn't gone effectively. They've revised a lot of tax rates. So clearly he was on the back foot. And that's why many analysts are calling this rating upgrade, as the early Christmas gift for the Prime Minister, because this will really give a boost to not only his party, but his personal image of being this economic savior. And when he goes into election mode next year, he can really come out and say, international community has actually appreciated his reforms. These are going to help the country in the long run. Yes, there have been short-term pain, but in the long run, I'm the right person to lead the party. And that's what the party is going to try and use this endorsement. Remember, the World Bank also recently upgraded India's position, the ease of doing business. So clearly, this is a shot in the arm for Narendra Modi.
What a difference a year makes. OK, thank you very much, Samir in Mumbai there. It's time now to take a look at what's trending online in the business world. And a story about Bitcoin is gaining traction. Business Insider is covering the story after it surged past $8,000, reaching an all-time high. The cryptocurrency, known for its volatility, has added $41 billion to its total valuation in just 6 days. The Wall Street Journal has a report that tech website Mashable has agreed to sell itself for just $50 million. That's a fraction of what it was valued at just under 2 years ago. So is this a weak sign for digital media? And finally, the bond that really asks you to bet on the future of the planet. Bloomberg has a story about a Danish energy company, which has issued a 1,000-year bond. The green bond will be used to fund environmental projects. So, as always, in the papers, when there's a new film in a franchise, it hits the headlines. And coming up, we're going to be talking about film memorabilia, which can reach thousands of dollars. We're talking to this man to find out which cinema items are a smash hit on and off screen. Do stay with us.